What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Sports YouTube channel. My name is Sean Barnard, and I'm back with some Week 12 NFL Survivor Pool picks. It is Thanksgiving time, the best football holiday of the year. So, three games in that matchup. We got the Bills versus Lions, Giants versus Cowboys, and Patriots versus Vikings. Going to touch on each of those games and everything else as far as picks for the week. But before I get fully into it, I would like to remind you guys that you can log on to DocSports.com and get $60 worth of free member picks at the top corner. So make sure to check that out. That's DOCSports.com. They got everything you need as far as written content, some breakdowns on NFL, college football, basketball, and everything in between. You can see my more in-depth opinion of each of these games here, as well as every slate around the NFL. So make sure to log on, check that out, and cash in on that awesome free picks there. So to kick things off and talk about my top picks for the week, I'm going to start off with number one in the Survivor Pool pick, the Dolphins minus 12 over the Houston Texans. The Dolphins are the real deal this year, coming off a bye week, 7-3, facing off against the 1-8-1 Texans. Miami is sixth in scoring and third in yards on the season. They have their top two wide receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, both in the top five for receiving yards. Tyreek Hill leading the way with 1,148 yards already on the season. And they're matching up against the Texans team that comes in 30th in scoring, 32nd in yards, and 30th in yards allowed. So really not a ton of room for optimism down in Houston. There's been some talks of benching Davis Mills, maybe making a quarterback change, but I think there's too many issues for a quarterback to just simply spark a turnaround. So feel confident about the Vikings. I think this is going to be a blowout win and another that they just proved that they are the real deal. Number two, I have the 49ers over the Saints. 49ers coming as 8.5-point favorites in this matchup. They're coming off a dominant performance against the Cardinals. Ended up winning that one 38-10 on Monday Night Football. There was no Kyler Murray, so a little bit of an asterisk next to it, but regardless, they looked impressive in their performance. They moved to 6-4 on the year. The Saints coming to this matchup at 4-7. The Niners are allowing the fourth fewest yards. The fourth fewest points and the fewest yards overall across the entire NFL. So that defense paired with Jimmy Garoppolo really finding his stride. Christian McCaffrey has provided a new just dynamic to that offense, and Deebo Samuel still doing his thing. So 49ers are forming into a very scary team as the season progresses. And shout out to Jimmy G for just finding his stride, doing his thing, being a strong quarterback. He really has succeeded in all opportunities. A guy that gets a bad rap, and it's good to see him back in there after the Trey Lance injury and seeing him succeed. Moving on to number three, a little bit more outside the box for these next couple. I have the Washington Commanders here. They come in as 4-point favorites against the Atlanta Falcons. The Commanders are playing good football right now. 6-5 on the season, facing off against the 5-6 Falcons. Atlanta's one of the more just sporadic teams as far as their level of play. So a little bit weird, but they always have a chance to throw up a clunker. And I think the Commanders are just the better team on both sides of the ball. They officially named Taylor Heineke the starting quarterback moving forward. So Carson Wentz to the bench in a new location here. The Falcons are ranking 27th in points allowed and 30th in yards allowed, which paves the way for Heineke to have a day. They also will be getting Chase Young back to the field for the first time and seeing that in front of his home crowd. So it feels like a combination of all good things with Chase Young coming back, Taylor Heineke, his first game as the true starter with the home crowd behind. It's going to be good vibes in Washington, and I think they're going to come through with a win. Next up, I have the Bears over the Jets. Bears 4.5-point underdogs in this matchup, and this is a matchup of two of the top quarterbacks from the 2021 draft class, kind of moving in opposite directions in their career. We have Justin Fields of the Bears, who has been every bit of must-watch television this NFL season. Has just been an absolute blast to watch with his legs, with his arm, keeping the Bears in games and giving a real spark to that franchise. And then on the other hand, we have Zach Wilson, who has really struggled of late. And the Jets were off to such a hot start to the season that they still kind of remain in competition. But he's going through some really rough stretches. The game last week was up there with one of the worst quarterback performances that has ever been seen. And looking at his stats, he ended with just 77 yards passing, 9 of 22, and was sacked 4 times with a couple of just bad throws, just completely off the mark. Some poor interceptions, more that should have been blocked or that were dropped that should have been interceptions, and just really frustrating performance. Also under heat for just not taking responsibility for it. After the game, he was asked if the offense kind of owes the defense an apology and just simply said no. So I don't know. Under heat, not good things in New York. There's been some whispers of a quarterback change there too. They're still kind of in the mix. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it. But regardless, we should feel good about the Bears coming out on top here. They are overdue for a win. They've been in the game these past couple weeks. The last 3 games they have lost by a combined 7 points. It feels like Justin Fields has a chance to kind of take them down and make it happen every game, and it kind of hasn't quite been the case come crunch time. But I don't know. He's got a little spark. He's got something. They have an overdue win. The Jets defense is the real deal, but I think this is finally time for Fields to put one in the win column. And my last pick that I think is a good one for the week is the Denver Broncos over the Carolina Panthers. Broncos 2.5 point favorites in this one. 3-7 on the year. The Broncos against the 3-8 Panthers. It's been a frustrating year for the Broncos overall, but the talent is still there. The defense, especially, is what shine. Looking at them, they rank last in scoring as a team at 14.7 points per game, but they're allowing just 17.1 points per game, which is an impressive mark. If Denver had scored exactly 18 points in every game this season, they'd be sitting at 9-1, which is pretty crazy, and that's a real kind of nudge on Russell Wilson's resume for not being able to pull that off. But Carolina, bottom 10 in points, yards, and yards allowed on the season. They made a quarterback change and have Sam Darnold coming in over Baker Mayfield this week. I think either way, the Broncos are the better team. They have more talent. It shouldn't take that many points to come get a win. So if Russell Wilson can scrap for like 17 or more points, I think they can feel confident about getting a win. So I do like the Broncos this week as a pick. Looking at a couple games that I think you're better off avoiding. Number one, I have the Giants and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I'm a little surprised how wide the spread is on this one. I'm seeing 8.5, 9 points in favor of the Cowboys. Cowboys will be coming into this riding high after their performance against the Vikings, which they just absolutely dismantled them with a final score of 40-3. One of the more impressive performances of the entire season, if not the most impressive performances of the entire season. Gave the Vikings their second loss on the year. And then on the other hand, the Giants coming in off a frustrating loss to the Lions. So kind of at the opposite ends of the spectrum, but both teams are still 7-3. There's a lot to play for in this game as far as the NFC East standings and the NFC playoff picture as a whole. So this one's going to have some meaning. Divisional games always kind of have a little bit more juice to them, and I think this is going to stay way closer than the spread uh, indicates. I think this is going to be a full toss up. I can see this going either way. I even lean toward I think the Giants might pull an upset here, but I think it's better just stay away from this one. Next up, the Colts versus the Steelers. This is the Monday night game. Steelers coming to the matchup 3-7 against the 4-6-1 Colts. These are two kind of bad football teams that are starting to show some signs of light. Steelers have been better in recent weeks. Went pretty toe to toe with the Bengals. Had a lead in the second half there and just couldn't kind of finish the deal. Kenny Pickett has had some moments, but still just not a team you should feel confident about. The Colts, on the other hand, have woken up with Jeff Saturday as the head coach. They beat the Raiders 2 weeks ago, coming off a 1 point loss at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. Impressive performance, and they were very close to pulling off a victory in that game, which is not an easy task considering 9-1 on the year, the Eagles. So, good performance by the Colts. They're showing some life. They look improved, and shout out to Jeff Saturday for kind of turning things around. The Colts are 1-9 straight up in their last 10 matchups against the AFC North, while the Steelers are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 matchups against the Colts. I lean toward the Colts getting the win in this, but I think this is one that you're better off staying away from. We could be in store for another kind of Monday night dud. They've gone away for a couple weeks since the beginning of the season when there were some poor games, but I think this one has a chance to be just as walk through or sleep worthy. Last up, I have the Patriots versus Vikings, the final game that we should avoid. Patriots 3 point underdogs in this. The Vikings are kind of on fraud watch now after that just lost to the Cowboys in such disastrous fashion. A walk-off punt return for the Patriots is how they came out on top of the Jets last week. Just 3-3 all game, no scoring either side, and managed to find a way to win this Patriots team. So that has been kind of the theme for New England all year, is just kind of hanging in there and finding a way to win. And they're looking like one of the better teams and peaking at the right time come playoff season. A Bill Belichick team always comes in ready, and I think there's a real chance that they could be ready to shut this Vikings team down. But with that being said, there still is kind of the off chance that Minnesota is fired up after that loss, comes in with a chip on their shoulder, ready to prove, and has a bounce back performance. Patriots are 6-4 on the season. They've won 5 of their last 6. In all 5 of those wins, they've held opposing teams under 17 points. So you see their identity as a hard-nosed team. They run the football. They play good defense. It's a contrast of styles and one that I'm not really sure how it's going to shake out. So I think that's one you're better off avoiding as well. So overall, some good football this week. There's no teams on a bye, so you have a clean slate for teams to pick from. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe on the channel. Drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on the matchups, any other ones you like or don't like, and I will talk with you next time.